Welcome to the Nativity Podcast, where we give listeners a behind-the-scenes look into the life of our active Catholic parish here in Burke, Virginia. How can we help you grow in your own faith? Listen to find out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nativity Podcast. As always, I am your host, Father Ed Bresnahan, parochial vicar of Nativity Parish in Burke, Virginia. With me, as always,
your director of social media, Mary Castellano.
Oh my gosh. Friends, we have a wonderful day for you. This is perfect. It is the fourth week of Advent. It is the shortest possible fourth week of Advent you could ever have. It is less than one day, friends.
Basically, yeah.
It is exactly one day. And so we're going to one up this. We're going to make this even a little bit more amazing, because we're going to talk not just about our one day of Advent today, but we're going to talk about Christmas. We're going to do all of it today. All of it happens in one beautiful moment. And who better to share this incredible moment with besides my dear co-host, Mary? Thank you so much for being with us today. But joining us,
we are so excited.
We have our sisters. We have the Handmaids of Reparation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Did I get that right, sister?
Yes, you did, Father.
Handmaids of Reparation of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. They are our longtime sisters. We have Sister Donatella and Sister Mary Attilia here. Sister Mary Attilia is, she said she just wants to come and observe. So she's smiling at us and she's
giving moral support. She's praying for us in the corner.
That's 100% true. But sisters, we are glad to have you. Sister Donatella, this is amazing.
Thank you for inviting me here, Father and Mary. This is an honor and a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
Should we mention how we had them on before? We've said this in almost every episode this series.
This is like the apology tour. Oh, guys, sorry we haven't had things.
Yeah, so this is technically not the first time the sisters have been on. We did have them over the summer, but again, we were experiencing a lot of technical difficulties, so their episode was lost, and it was beautiful. So thank you again for accepting the invitation to come back on. You mentioned it maybe off the record, Father, that we had a married woman on. We had a permanent deacon who's also married. We had a father, and now we have a sister. So it's quite the dream team.
We do. We have the whole vocational force here.
Yes.
I love it. And all with a lot of different backgrounds. And I don't know if you guys have caught our theme, but when we first start our conversations, we've been asking everybody questions. Some were about like Christmas food. Some were about sort of Advent traditions. Some were, one was about Christmas music. So I thought we'd lead in. Let's close it out with, I think it makes sense, since we're talking about the fourth Sunday of Advent. We're talking about Christmas Eve. We're talking about Christmas Day. And really just the question is, what is the spiritual thing, the spiritual tradition that is something so special for you and your family? Mm-hmm. Now, I know that for me, it was always that we would get up in the morning, and the very first thing on Christmas Day, it was always the first thing. We couldn't open our presents until afterwards. We couldn't really see our presents. We would kind of run out and we would see the things that Santa had brought and everything. But we couldn't play with them, open them, or touch them until after we went to Mass. Mm-hmm. And so it was always that the first thing for us was to go to church.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. It's interesting for my family, Father. My family has changed a lot over the last few decades. I have a lot of siblings. Some have gotten married, some have moved out, and we all have different work schedules. But the only thing that has remained consistent as far as a spiritual tradition around Christmas was started from one of my grandfathers, was to say the rosary together on Christmas Eve as a family. So whoever is available, or even if you're not available to do it in person, we know that we have other relatives who will do it kind of in their own home with their own family. And so, so that is our Castellano Garrett kind of tradition, is on Christmas Eve, we say the rosary together. So what about you, Sister Donatella? You have some interesting traditions.
Well, yes, we do. First of all, we prepare for Christmas with the novena to the baby Jesus. And that starts on December 16th for 9 days. At home, we do special little things for Jesus preparing. And also every single day there is a Mass in the church, and it's so early in the morning, usually about 5 o'clock in the morning, because the pastor give the opportunity to the people work either in the fields, wherever, they will be able to come to Mass. And the children, amazingly, they just look forward to go to the early Mass. We as kids begged our parents, please wake us up because we have to go to the novena. That's so important. We had this just for Jesus, for baby Jesus getting ready. So we go every single morning. We sing songs in church. We usually have the traditional Italian song, Tu scendi dalle stelle. That's a very typical traditional Christmas. We did sing that all through the novena. And so that's something, that tradition, they're always very important and very special for us in our tradition.
So cool.
Love that. I love the idea that the kids are making sure that the parents are getting to church at 5 a.m.
Yes.
to make it happen, to make it
That's amazing.
to make it a reality.
There were times where it was very, very cold. And one time my mother didn't go because it was too cold. And it's like, I don't care, I'm going anyway. Well, being in a small town, we walked to church. So it's not a big deal. Everybody walked. And we were so proud that we were able to go to all 9 days. We never missed a day. That was very important. And that's our preparation for Christmas for baby Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Getting ready. And I love that. Getting ready for baby Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. I think especially for young people, like little ones, there really is an appeal, right? There's an appeal that this child in a manger, right? This newborn life, it's so innocent, so precious. It's just a great moment to be able to say, like, little kids drawn to other little kids.
Yes, exactly.
So,
yes.
You know, if I think of, angry Jesus, no, there's no such thing as angry Jesus. But like, I think of maybe older Jesus or even crucified Jesus or any of those different images that we have. And today they're so precious to me when I go into prayer. But I can only imagine reminding myself as a little child about the innocence of being able to see the little baby in a manger and being able to welcome him. So I love that. I just love that. 9 days, getting your parents up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Let's go. Right.
Yes.
And to pray.
And I think that transitions us really well into the gospel reading for the fourth Sunday of Advent. Father, would you mind reading that for us?
I would love to. All right. Today's gospel is going to be taken from the Gospel of Luke. The Lord be with you.
And with his spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to the Lord.
The angel Gabriel was sent from God to a town of Galilee called Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man named Joseph of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. And coming to her, he said, Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with you. But she was greatly troubled at what was said, and pondered what sort of greeting this might be. Then the angel said to her, Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall name him Jesus. He will be great and will be called Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give him the throne of David his father, and he will rule over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. But Mary said to the angel, How can this be, since I have no relations with a man? And the angel said to her in reply, The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore the child to be born will be called Holy, the Son of God. And behold, Elizabeth, your relative, has also conceived a son in her old age, and this was the 6th month for her, who was called barren. For nothing will be impossible for God. Mary said, Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word. Then the angel departed from her. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Powerful gospel.
It's so great. Sister, when you hear that passage, I'm sure you've heard this passage so many times. This is one of those passages that pops up a lot in the liturgical year. What are the pieces, or what are some of the big parts of that just always jump out at you?
Well, this gospel is really kind of our life. The founder of our order gave the name to the congregation. Handmaids are a preparation after Mary. We are called to imitate Mary, to say yes. She said yes to God, to become the mother of Jesus. We say yes to God and to bring Jesus to the people. So we are the handmaids. We have a very, very special devotion to Mary, the Annunciations, and just saying yes. So yes, this our heart, because that's our gospel. We're trying to live it. We're trying to imitate Mary, say yes all the time.
I love that. And with the sisters, you take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
Yes.
There's not a fourth vow or anything like that?
No, we don't. We don't have a fourth vow for that. But it's just our charisma. It's the way we were founded. That's important, that we say our yes to God. Yes.
Amazing. So then every part of your life, when we dedicate it to God, and most especially when we lay it down in poverty, chastity, and obedience, the goal is to imitate our life the way that Mary does.
Correct.
To be able to walk in the footsteps that she
I am the handmaid of the Lord. But, just like that, Yeah.
Incredible. And just for our wonderful listeners, many of you may know this, but our sisters, the way that our sisters have been handmaids and servants, the way that they've said yes, is that over the past 34 years. So 34 years, they've been working in our religious education department. They have been chairing it. They have been running it. They have been organizing it. They have been doing everything for the past 34 years, to the point now where I think children of people you taught back in the day are now bringing their kids.
Yes, they are. Yes, we're kind of proud of that, but it makes me feel a little old. But we are proud of that, yes.
Everybody knows sisters never itch. That's an amazing thing.
Thank you, Father.
It's part of the rule of life, I think. No,
The perks of being a sister, right?
Exactly. God looks out for his girls. But I think what I love about that is that idea of tying our own yes to the yes of Mary, and really focusing on how the first and foremost thing, there's a lot happening in this gospel, but how beautiful is it that the first word that we think of is yes. Mm-hmm. That of all the things that could have happened, Mary says yes to receiving baby Jesus.
When we were novices, our novice mistress would say that our yes, Mary's yes was a capital Y. Our yes is small y's, but not just one, but over and over again. Wow. So that always struck me. That's how important it is. Mary gave the real yes to become the mother of God, the Jesus. But we have small y's that say yes, 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 yes.
That's a great way just to kind of think about, even for, me as a lay person, discerning my vocation, discerning how to, discern the Lord's will every single day. I really like that. It's like we can pray the rosary, we can look up to Mary, that capital Y, and ours is the little y. But it's
so many one after the other. Just that's consistent. Just at one time, but
yeah,
all the time.
I think sometimes people feel maybe afraid to practice their faith. They feel almost unsure, because I think we think every one of our yeses has to be some big capital Y yes. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's so, I don't want to say it's easy, because it requires our whole life, right? It requires every fiber of our being. But it's not like we wait for one big gift. Mm-hmm. That every day is an opportunity, and every minute of every day is an opportunity to say those little Y yeses, those little yeses.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate to that, because I feel like that's kind of one of the ways that I've grown in my own spiritual life, is recognizing those little moments in the day, whether it's, getting into my car, the commute, being kind on the road. Like literally I could take you from the start of my day to the end of my day when I get to Nativity, saying hello, being charitable, mm-hmm. even if I'm dealing with technical difficulties. Don't let that get in the way of being kind to a parishioner. Like, it's these kinds of really little things. Those are the little yeses. And I think we just have to be aware of them throughout our day, kind of in whatever stage of life that we're in. For me as a working woman, that's how I have to think of, is how I can invite the Lord and recognize his presence and his invitations throughout my work day. But then maybe for, a parent, for a mom, I saw something just the other day. One of my mom friends shared on social media that her expression of love is feeding her family. It is doing laundry. These are sometimes little, sometimes big, but like
yes, never little.
Depending on the family.
Yes.
But some people might think that they're so ordinary, that they're insignificant, but really that's where love with a capital L, I think, is lived out. And I think we touched on that a little bit in our last episode with Deacon Kelly. But I love how you, sister, are saying this from your perspective, and that was one of the first things that you were taught as a novice. Is that
As a
what you said?
novice, yes.
Yeah, and so that has been formative for you.
But also my mother, as growing up, she always say, don't waste time, okay? Use the time for God. It's like, what do you mean? Well, when you walk down the street or just wash clothes or whatever it is, don't just think about other things. Just say one Hail Mary, say Our Father. Say, even if you want to say the whole rosary, just keep repeating the Hail Mary, the Our Father, the glory be, prayer to a guardian angel. Don't waste those moments, she would say. So that really stuck with me.
I know I've mentioned it before, but I love the image or the visual of a bicycle wheel. And like, if you imagine each of the spokes or all the different things we have going on in our life, right? Each spoke that kind of holds up our life. This is, the work we have, or this is the time we have with our family or our spouse, or, whatever different kinds of things that we're in. And there's a temptation to kind of make God one of those spokes on the wheel, but God doesn't want to be a spoke on the wheel. He wants to be the axle, right? He wants to be there at the center of all of them. So when you're walking down the street, why not say a prayer to God? Right. When you're at work, why not offer prayers, in that downtime for your work? Why not let your work be a reflection of your faith?
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that as well. And I remember that was a lesson back in my theology classes in undergrad at Catholic University. I think the book that we were reading, I think it was by Bishop Barron. I think it was called either The Third Way or The Strangest Way. I would need to look up the title. But that book, the main lesson that we were taught was exactly like that image that you were sharing, Father, of the spokes on the wheel and how God should be in the center. And this whole theological pastoral lesson was each of us kind of envisions ourself as the center, and we have everything kind of revolving around us. There's a very popular phrase now on social media of like, we are the main character. And yeah, it is kind of true in our own head and our own narrative. We're kind of the main character. But really, I think one of the challenges in growing in your faith in the spiritual life is moving yourself from the center out and replacing that with God. And I think the only way that what we're saying makes sense is if you take the time to do that, to put God at the center, like kind of if you can visualize that. And that's something I still struggle with to this day, but it's a good struggle. And I think there's one line in particular that kind of also stuck out to me. You'll appreciate this, Father, because it was also reiterated in a popular Marvel movie. Do you remember when in Doctor Strange, when the guru woman, bald lady, was saying, Doctor Strange, you don't get it. It's not about you. And that is basically the whole point of this metaphor, the strangest way, the spokes on the wheel, whatever. It's not about us. So take yourself out of the center. It's about God. So.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That is. So, but sister, I think you've got a really good insight on this, because this is how, as a sister, but also as a woman, as a catechist, as everything, this is how you have to inform your life. How does the average person kind of begin to form that idea of, how do you get to the point where you can say all those little yeses?
Well, like we ordinary on the ordinary tasks of life, like you said, the mother feels that like feeding her family. So, every moment and every task that we do, they just do with extraordinary. Like Saint Teresa of Lisieux would say, I do little things with love. If you do little, Saint Teresa, that's how she became a saint. Do small things with love and extraordinary. And just where God puts you. If God puts you as a mom, as a mother, to feed your family or change your diapers, that's where God wants you. If you got as a teacher teaching the children or special ed, whatever, that's where He wants you. That's where you're supposed to be, and that's where you start.
I forgot where I heard it, but it sounds like what you're saying is bloom where you're planted.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you're planted somewhere, well, dig some roots and then, take that nutrients, what you got,
right,
and then be the flower you are.
Right. Yes.
Oh, I love that. Sister, I think that's a really, really key insight, is the idea that, like, we may not have a lot of control over the externals in our life. There's so much outside of us. I don't have a choice as to where the bishop is assigning me. I don't have a choice as to who comes through my door in the confessional, in the office, or whatever. We don't have a lot of choices when it comes to how the world will unfold in our lives. But we do have a choice as to how we interact with those things. And what you're saying resonates with me is because if the first step you take is a step of love, then it informs almost everything else we can do. Mm-hmm. Right. If I start with love, then the rest of it makes way more sense.
Right. Yes.
And I think another thing that we can point out, even from the gospel reading today, is one of the very first things that the angel Gabriel says to Mary is, "Do not be afraid."
Yes.
So like each of these things, whether they're little or small, or it could be really daunting. Like, I don't know how you feel, Father, but the fact that anybody could walk in and need anything from you at any point in time, there could be some anxiety that goes with that. And yeah, I love this reminder, and also too, kind of the words of JP2 kind of go through my mind too. His kind of constant reminder, be not afraid.
Be not afraid, yes.
Yeah, I imagine that there's oftentimes for the average person, hopefully not our brave listeners, but I feel like for the average person, there's always an idea of fear in the idea of stepping into the unknown. How will people react to me professing faith? How will people react to me doing the right but difficult thing? Mm-hmm. How will people react to me doing something that might seem strange in practicing, whether it's practicing some aspect to my faith, celebrating the true meaning of Christmas, or really asking deeper questions that ask us to be a little bit more vulnerable and real with one another. And I feel like being able to first step out and say, wow, our faith starts with a yes. Our faith starts with a young girl who has the weight of the world on her shoulders.
Right. Yes. Right. Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely would want to imitate somebody who has that kind of bravery.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any tips, Father, on ways to do exactly what we're saying? I feel like someone could maybe listen to this and say, well, for all of you working at the church, yeah, that sounds great and dandy. But how? How do you give that yes without fear? Do you have any sort of practical tips for our listeners?
Yep, nope. No, actually, it was really so funny that you say that. I was totally gonna punt that question to Sister. But maybe I could just offer this first, and then I think Sister will be able to really comment even better. I would not be anywhere where I am, and most of the people I talk to wouldn't be where they are if they weren't grounded in some way, shape, or form in prayer. That prayer anchors all the other little pieces, right? It doesn't automatically make you a perfect person. It doesn't get rid of whatever struggles you deal with. But even a person who has never practiced their faith before, who begins to embrace a small habit of prayer, will find some transformation. And when you hear the stories of the great saints, and you hear the stories of the people who really did so many amazing and incredible work over the last 2,000 years, you're always hearing stories of people who first anchored their lives in prayer. So I would just say that I can't make you not afraid. I can't make you just magically believe everything Jesus says, but I can tell you to pray, and anchored in prayer makes all the difference in the world. So I would totally punt that over to Sister. Sister, what's the effect of prayer, and maybe because maybe this is a good inside the Vatican scoop here, but in the convent, right? In the convent, obviously we know the sisters on the external because we see their presence at Mass. We hear about you, and then all of our young people spend some time in religious education, so they interact with you. But they don't always see what goes on in the convent. And obviously, you guys are playing Mario Kart and video games.
Yes. I'm
just kidding. But I feel like prayer has to be a function of what you do in the convent, right?
Yes. Prayer is the rock. I mean, like you mentioned, nothing happens without prayer. Prayer does not change things, but it changes us to accept the things. So whatever the phrase is, I've heard it before. We strongly believe that we have to start with prayer every day. We get up 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll be in the chapel by 5:30. We do the prayers and the meditation, the divine office, and reading and rosary and so on. I mean, yes, we do. We go in the chapel and do a lot of praying in the morning. We say a lot of prayers in the morning, but that's the difference between the saying prayers and praying.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah, saying prayers.
So
praying.
we can say so many prayers, but doesn't mean that we really are in touch with Jesus. So prayer is just put yourself in the presence of Jesus, and be open and just be transformed. And God does. I mean, He just has a good sense of humor sometimes, because we think one way, and He says, "No, that's not the way you want." Plans are changed, and we have to accept that. And the only way we can accept that by being open, being in the presence of God, and say the yes. Again, we go back to the yes. And so, yes, prayer is very, very important. Not just saying prayers. Saying prayers help us to be who we are, but deep down, it's more just like standing in the sun. Yeah, I can be in a room and I see the sun outside, but it's not the same thing when I go outside and feel the sun in my face and just be warmed at the sun and just beautiful feelings.
And that makes amazing sense. And folks, for those of you who don't know, like Sister's not wrong. The sisters go into their chapel at 5 o'clock every morning to pray for the parish and to pray for their order and to pray for their work. But I think also during the day, you also make trips back in. I think the sisters will spend some time in adoration and holy hours and things like that.
Yeah, so during the day, we make short visits here in the church or chapel, but also we make a holy hour every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's very difficult when we are here with the RE. We be here until late, but still we go home and make it a holy hour. And we feel that it's so important. It's just like getting more, we need to have food for our bodies. So we feel that that holy hour, the prayer, is food for the soul, for our prayer life. And so, yes, that's definitely. And before, the last thing we do before we go to bed, after supper, whatever, and we go to the chapel for compline, and we night prayers, and then say goodnight, Jesus. And that's how, say the last thing that night.
I love that. I love that because I hope that our wonderful listeners can really hone in on what we're trying to say here. And again, I really appreciated, Sister, you saying that it's more than just saying prayers, right? It's really trying to bring your life in union with Jesus Christ. And I think maybe just from my perspective, I certainly say my prayers every day. But I have to constantly remind myself it's a process to bring myself and to allow the Lord to draw closer to me. So that's the ongoing benefit. But I guess what I'm getting at is I really want the parish to know it's like our sisters aren't just doing like a job in the sense of they're not just, they're the RE directors. So their job in the church is to direct RE, right? That there's, even before they go into the RE office, even before they sign up their first kid, even before they get their first textbook or recruit their first catechist, as Sister Mary Tilia is really, really good at doing. Sister Mary is really good because she'll smile at you and then she'll ask if you want to become a catechist. And if you already are a catechist, you will somehow feel this irresistible urge to pick up a second class. It's irresistible. It's incredible. But all of that is preceded by prayer. That every person in our parish is prayed for by our sisters and brought to Jesus by our sisters. And that's a really powerful thing. I know as a priest that sustains me, that knowing that I've got, obviously when parishioners are like, oh, we love you, Father, we pray for you. I'm like, that's great. But just also knowing that there's a group of these sisters that get up early in the morning and say, dear Lord, help Father Bresnahan.
Oh.
No, I mean, sorry, that sounded terrible. You know what I mean? Sorry.
I hope that's how it starts.
I hope
Lord, help Father Bresnahan.
Father Bresnahan.
You know what this also kind of reminds me of? I'm really glad, Sister, again, echoing what he just said, that, you bring up kind of the superficiality that prayer can be sometimes. And I know for myself, I fall into this habit often where, you say prayers, but you don't really.
We all do.
And it's an ongoing struggle, but I also think that can really tie in to right now in the liturgical season. So Advent is almost over again. Like Father was saying, this is like the shortest Advent we could possibly have. So I don't know for our listeners how their Advent has been, whether you've been able to enter into it or if it's just been too busy or whatever the case may be. But maybe my invitation, challenge, encouragement to you would be, don't let this Christmas season just be superficial. Don't just do it like, oh, it's Christmas, I'm going to open up all the presents, which is fun and good. That's a good thing. Or I'm going to listen to the Christmas music, which is fun. That's a good thing. Help you enter into the season. But that's superficial. That's not all, as we believe it as Catholic Christians, all that Christmas is. It's the coming of Christ. It's the Holy Family. It's meditating on Mary's yes. It's looking at Saint Joseph. And so that would just be my invitation to everyone, is really enter into this season of Christmas and pray with it.
Amazing. Friends, and I love that. I love the idea of not making it superficial. But it's okay if you're in the first part where it feels superficial, because I love the idea of you're building a habit and you're opening your heart to what's possible. Like, don't not pray just because you had one day where you felt it was mechanical. Right? If I'm trying to run a marathon, I don't just, like, the first day I might run a little bit. Right? I might not be able to run the whole thing. I don't quit just because I can't get it just right. No, I've got to build up into a habit there and grow in it. So give yourself a chance and don't shortchange yourself.
And that kind of reminds me of something I had learned a couple years back. I think it was like right before the pandemic started. I was working a lot more with youth ministry at the time, and I was assisting and leading girls and guys small groups. And our topic for most of these small groups was prayer. And so we came upon meditation, like how do you meditate in prayer? And the resources that Life Team provided, the way that they described how to meditate in prayer kind of was like a dance, was like almost a wrestling match. That's the way they were describing it. So it's similar to what you were saying, Father, that like to pray can be to wrestle with something. One of the main lessons that I kind of learned from leading that small group was that our teenagers, they didn't really know how to pray. So we would tell them as their youth ministers, you need to pray. But then the kids would look at us kind of like deer in headlights, say, well, I don't really know how. I love that analogy, Father, of like, you're not necessarily going to get it, quote unquote, the first time. But if you keep showing up, if you keep wrestling, if you open up the scripture and do, like, one of the things we taught them was Alexia Divina. Maybe the first time you read scripture doesn't really resonate with you. Read it a second time. Read it slower.
Right.
Yeah.
Find a word.
Yes.
So like we've done that on previous episodes. We'll say to our guests, what word stood out to you, and wrestle with it. Ask yourself why. What is the Lord trying to tell you in this moment? That is prayer. And another thing I love to remind myself, but also people I know, that prayer can sometimes, like you were saying, Sister, is just showing up and sitting and basking in the sunlight.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily need to wrestle or do anything, quote unquote. So like adoration, for example, our Tuesday night adoration is a great way to practice that kind of prayer. Just showing up and just sitting in Eucharistic adoration, just sitting, knowing that the Lord is there, and kind of taking away any expectation from yourself of what you're going to experience, hear, feel, whatever, and just be and be present and let Him do the work. That also is prayer.
Yes, I agree.
Love it, Sister.
Yes.
Okay, but there's another great thing about this season that's, I think, just perfect. And I hope that this kind of leads into something that is very important and near and dear to the sisters' hearts. Because part of the work that we do to make Christmas not a superficial thing is our prayer and being rooted in prayer. But sometimes we get caught up in all the stuff, right? We get caught up in like gift giving and all of that. And sometimes we want to be detached from the material, right? And the remedy for that in the church is almsgiving, right? The remedy in the church is giving gifts or giving of ourselves to someone who is in need. And now, sisters, I love this because you pick the hardest fundraising month of the year, right? November into December is the easiest fundraising month because that's the month where everybody's always like they're ringing bells outside of grocery stores. Everybody's doing their end of year tax giving and stuff. The sisters trust the Lord in a way that no one else does because they picked January, right? But for a special fundraiser.
I mean, it's just December go into January.
Got it. December into January.
Into January, yes.
Okay. And then, sisters, what is this? What is this?
Well, we are with the Handmaids of Reparation. We are worldwide. We are a small community, but we're trying to stretch and evangelize. The sisters are on the Ivory Coast and now in Congo. They have built schools. They have built a clinic. Now in Congo, they're going to build a school as well, a convent. And so we're supporting them. We are a family, a religious family. So just like in a family, they help each other financially. That's how we do it. So we have this fundraising to help the sisters build the school. Right now, we are focusing more on Congo because they just opened the house there last 6 months. And they're buying a land and building because so the fundraiser is to help them to send funds so they can build the school. And also in Nacion in Ivory Coast, they have a little clinic. Want to make it bigger than that. And they have a school with hundreds of children who parents cannot afford to pay or pay minimum. But that's how the sisters educate the children. So education is at the heart of our community. Our ministry was education, whether parish or schools and things like that. In Italy, unfortunately, we don't have as many schools left as before because financially parents cannot attend and so on. So education is the heart of our community. So we're trying to expand that in the missions. And unless they have money and funds, they can't. So they depend on us. And this is the Advent project that we do. We begin in December and go on into January. We understand that, for Christmas, everybody's busy, everybody's giving, everybody's just, okay, then Christmas is over. And so, well, okay, I think I didn't do much to give away, give some money. Maybe I can help the sisters, so. And so that's our fundraiser. We really appreciate all the help. Every little bit helps. As again, it's just that's for the good of the children.
That sounds amazing, sister. And I mean, I feel like an added benefit is that, money that we have here in the United States probably can stretch a little farther in Congo or in Ivory Coast. So the ability to be able to support education, the ability to support young people, young children are on the other side of the world is amazing. But also to remind us, this is an amazing gift that we have, because sometimes in our little town in Burke, we can sort of get kind of...
I thought you were going to say little town in Bethlehem.
Our little town in Bethlehem. Oh, little town of GA. No, okay. Anyway, but our little town here in Burke, there's a sense of, like here, Fairfax, one of the wealthiest counties in the country, and just we kind of get a little bit isolated, and we are so grateful to have our sisters, but they're like our sisters, right? They're like, you guys are our sisters. But the reality is that the sisters are part of a network of handmaids, different convents all over the world. Started in Sicily,
yes,
and then expanded. So really, we're one of the missions,
right? Exactly. That's how we started. Yes, but also in Nacion, we have a school for adults. Adults who never went to school. They don't know how to read or write. So the sisters teach. They come in the evening, and the sisters teach the people how to read or write, especially, like sign their names, very basics. So that, I think, it's not just the children, but also their parents.
Oh, wow.
And that's amazing how they, because these people feel isolated and not being able to know how to read and write. So that's amazing too.
So the rest of us are playing checkers. The sisters are playing three-dimensional chess here. And I love this because, if you're looking to try to figure out how to make your faith substantial, right? rooting and anchoring it in prayer, especially more than just even going through the motions, but really making that effort to draw closer to Christ. And then how much better to draw closer to Christ than to exercise our hearts to be generous. And what better way to do that than to support the sisters as well? Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So if you want to support our sisters, you can always visit our website. I'm pretty sure the link will be live throughout most of the month of January. Correct. So you'll be able to find information, learn more about their missions, about their order, and donate online. And
I know that the fundraiser goes from December into January, but sisters, you guys would take a check
anytime. Anytime.
So if you're listening to this, and that December to January window is passed, do not think that they are somehow unable to receive. Now, I might say one other little plug, right? Sisters, you can correct me if I'm wrong. No gift is too small, right?
No gift is too small. No gift is too small.
But also, no gift is too large either.
No, right, of course not.
No gift is too large. They'll pray for you regardless of what's going on. But I'm sure that in addition, part of the idea of joining with them on mission, one of the benefits we receive is we receive the prayers of the sisters in the community. We get included in their prayers, and so I'm sure that comes along with all of the above. So
we do appreciate, and this parish has been wonderful, very generous, and very giving, and we want to thank all of you, those who've been donating in the past and will donate in the future. And again, we do pray for you every single day. Like Father said, it's just no gift is too small or too large, but we try to help. As I said, not just the children, but the parents. I can imagine being 50 or 60 years old mom or grandma and not being able to help her children to do the homework or read or write. So that the sisters have their school in the evening, so that the parents are able to do that. That is just amazing to me. It's just, I never thought of that until a couple of years ago when they built this school. It's like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
I love it. And sisters, we're just so grateful for you.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute joy. I'm ready for Christmas.
Oh, I am too.
Yes.
Yes.
For Christmas.
Yes.
I feel my heart is full. We've had some amazing guests over the last couple of weeks. My heart is just so full and ready to go for this great gift. And sisters really convicted me on the idea, especially in my own prayer, of really, really honing in. Not that I haven't done this, but just a reminder. And I love that. I'm constantly in need of reminders.
We all do.
Right? I tell people I need to be retrained on my lunch break. So do you have any plugs, or do you have any plugs there, Mary?
Well, it's okay. So the only thing I think that would be really great for our listeners to know is, yes, the fourth Sunday of Advent is Sunday, December 24th. But Christmas Eve is also Sunday, December 24th. So please visit our website for the change in Mass times. So at Nativity, this year, we will not have our regular Sunday evening Masses because of Christmas Eve. You'll find all information and all the details on our website, but please plan accordingly. So, it is our duty to attend regular Sunday Mass. So that is the fourth Sunday of Advent liturgy. But then there's also the Christmas liturgy. So there is no double dipping in a way.
I love that.
But you can find that there more eloquently on our website. So I do encourage you to just plan ahead. And we look forward to seeing everyone.
Absolutely. And I did want to shout out, we had one of our wonderful listeners. I should say this, a brand new listener. So we had a brand new listener who just started at the beginning of this Advent reflection and did not realize that we had other podcasts. And so I think we have a convert, if you will, where they're going to start looking at other things. But I just always appreciate it because the way that she had heard about it was that she had heard about it from word of mouth. Somebody had mentioned it to her. And so again, I share this with people all the time, right? You can like and subscribe. You can do all of those number of things to sort of get the word out. But the easiest way to let us know how we're doing and to let us know, or to tune in and to get this kind of amazing content, to get this kind of an amazing interview with our beloved sisters, is just by word of mouth. So if you enjoyed this episode, if something in this really struck you, especially getting ready for the Christmas season, tell someone about it.
Mm.
Tell someone about it. Share the joy of this podcast. It means a lot to us, not in pride to be like, someone liked and subscribed. But more importantly, we really believe in what we're doing and what we're sharing. We love what our parish is about, and we love the people that make up our parish. And we want to showcase them, and we want to showcase the beautiful things that are going on in our parish. The easiest way to connect with our parish is if our parish is talking. So please share with one another, and a special thanks to Katie for joining in our podcast. You are awesome, and we love you. We should totally have like her on the podcast, because that would be like a good one.
Oh, that'd be great.
Maybe for the future. So
that'd be great. So, sisters, would you mind closing us out with a prayer with the Hail Mary? But we'd be honored if you would do it in your native language of Italian.
Of course, sure, it'd be great. Okay. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne, benedetto il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen. Buon Natale.
Buon Natale. I love it. Merry Christmas, everybody. And God bless you.